What always bothered me was that I never finished the entire Dark Souls trilogy. I have never touched DS1 and DS2, which is a shame since I've heard a lot of people say they are great games. So I decided to finally go back and play them properly. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. After grabbing the first bonfire and the first flask, it was time to fight the first boss of DS1, which is the Asylum Demon. The Asylum Demon himself wasn't really hard or difficult, but he was great for a first tutorial boss. I got carried off to Firelink Shrine, which is basically the heart of the game, the spawn area, as you might call it. And there I found a NPC that told me that I had to ring two particular bells of awakening. I wasn't really paying attention at the time, but I just knew that one of them was somewhere above where I was standing right now, and one of them was below where I was. There were two ways I could go. I could go left or right from Firelink Shrine, and I decided to go right. That seemed like the most obvious choice. Following the path along the right, I eventually found a Black Knight. And this Black Knight is going to be the first real challenge I had in this entire run. So after a couple of deaths, I managed to defeat him, and he gave me the Black Knight sword. The weapon was very good, but I could not wield it. I did not have high enough dexterity and also not high enough strength, which sucked, but at the time the axe was insane as well. So I did not need it, but the power of the Black Knight sword will be used later in this run. So after defeating the Black Knight, I met the Taurus demon, which spawned onto the bridge. And again, same with the Asylum demon, the moveset was pretty predictable. He wasn't very hard again, but I feel like he was also fairly decent compared to some other bosses in DS1. After defeating him, I met a man called Solaire. Throughout DS1, everything is about darkness. And for a moment with him, I just wanted to look at the sun. Just enjoy the moment and enjoy a man seeking the sun in a world full of darkness. After I stared at the sun for a bit, I made my way over to Andre, which is the blacksmith of this game. And I also decided to upgrade the axe, which I found to be a very great weapon, to +3. There was also something I heard along the way to Andre, which was the first bell of awakening. I passed a church where I heard the bell, so I decided to go back. And on the top of that church, there were the gargoyles, the dual gargoyles. And this was actually pretty funny because I saw the health bar of one of the gargoyles before I even got the cutscene to fight them, which is pretty funny. But again, I died like one time and then I defeated him. So after that, I rang the first bell. And what this did, I did not know. I had no clue. I just knew that I needed to ring the other bell and then hopefully I'll get a cutscene. So after ringing the first bell, I took the elevator that was located inside the church of the first bell and I went down to Firelink Shrine again. And instead of going right, which I did in the beginning, this time I went left, which was a big mistake. To the left of Firelink Shrine is an area called the Catacombs. And when I tell you that this area is the most annoying area in the entire game, that is the truth, at least for me. So I pushed through the entirety of the Catacombs and then I fought a certain boss, which was very easy. And then I went to the Tomb of the Giants. This area, again, was pretty annoying. But eventually I wormed my way through and got out of the cave and out of the tomb. Only to find that the entire area was blocked off by a light door. And I had no clue how to open this light door. So I thought, okay, it's fine. But then again, I cannot teleport. So instead of having the teleport and going back to Firelink Shrine that way, I had to walk through that entire area again. But now backwards. That was not a fun experience, let me tell you that. It was not fun at all. But again, I did it with pain and a lot of suffering, but I got back to Firelink Shrine in the end. Then I thought to myself, okay, where do I go from here? I have no clue where to go. So when I went to Andre, there was a particular area below that I could go. So I decided, I haven't explored that. Why not do that? And that's when I went into the Dark Root Garden area. And in this area, there is a particular boss called, I don't know what she called, but the Butterfly. I'll call her the Butterfly from now on. The Butterfly is probably one of the worst bosses I have ever seen in a game. Like, I'm sorry if I offend you with that comment, but the whole gimmick is wait for her to attack a couple of times, then she comes down, you hit her twice or 3 times, she goes up again, you dodge the attacks, and that's it. That's the entire fight. It's a very boring fight, I would say. And then I found out that it's pretty much for nothing. You do get an Ember, which is important if you want to get achievements, but for the overall benefit or the overall progression of the game, I don't believe this boss is necessary at all. In the beginning of Darkwood Garden, you can go either to the left, which is where the butterfly is, or you could go to the right and then go down a lot. And since I knew the Bell of Awakening had to be down, I went down. Going down, I actually found an elevator that brought me to the Valley of Drakes. When you cling to the walls of the mountain, you eventually reach an area called Blighttown, and that area is actually a very important area of the game, since not only does it have Quelaag, which is one of the bosses you have to defeat in order to ring the second Bell of Awakening, but also it has one of the most important areas in any game of the Souls series, the swamp area. If there are 3 things that Miyazaki likes, it's feet, fanboys, and poison swamps. He got to have at least those 3 things in every Souls game. Quelaag was a pretty interesting boss. I did like that her sword attack did not just consist of her sword, but actually had like an AoE behind it, which is cool. But the hitboxes were a bit off. I'm not gonna lie. Other than that, pretty cool boss. Died like a couple of times to her, and then managed to defeat her in the end. After you defeat Quelaag, you can finally ring the second Bell of Awakening. And after ringing that second bell, it is finally revealed why you needed to ring those bells in the first place. Because the giant on top of Sen's fortress hears those bells and now raises the gates to Sen's fortress. I already knew where this was, by the way. It was literally right around the corner of, again, Andre. He's also a very big part and central point of this run. But before I went to Sen's fortress to explore that area, I went behind Quelaag, because there was more to do there, a lot more to do. That's where I found the Ceaseless Discharge, which is a boss that is very big, but not that hard either. Yes, it's a common theme now that these bosses are not as hard as I expected them to be. And that's the biggest thing with this game, is except from a couple of bosses, most bosses are not that hard. It's probably because I have played a lot of difficult games that these just feel easy. But yeah, I expected DS1 to have a lot more tougher bosses. Maybe that's just a flaw on my end of thinking, but yeah, that's how I felt about DS1. At least what it's hyped up to be. But aside from that, I defeated the ceaseless discharge, which allowed me to explore even further, because defeating him lowered the lava level inside the demon realm. So I could explore further down. And if you hug the right wall, just like in Minecraft, you eventually come across, again, who would have guessed it, a light door. Oh my days. At least I knew now that there was an area I could go to, right? I knew I had to explore Sen's Fortress to progress the main story. And this area was pretty annoying, especially the part between, like, Sen's Fortress in itself was annoying because of the small pathways you had, or small bridges you had to cross, which had enemies on them that were ranged and melee. So they could be very annoying, and you also had swinging axes from side to side, which was also pretty annoying. But overall, I liked this area. It was a bit of a maze, but you could find your way there. And on top of the fortress was the giant. Who would have guessed it? he raised the gates in the first place. And when I fought the boss, I thought it was a glitch. I thought the boss was glitched because when I attacked it, he did not attack back. He attacked back like once or twice in the entire fight. And I heard that that was because I had equipped the Black Knight sword, which just had a really big stun. And I stunned him over and over and over again. Or riposted, I don't know how you say it, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, he could not move. So either it was a glitch, which I thought it was, but I found out that it was just my weapon being insanely OP. So the giant went down first try. Easy as shit. And after defeating him, I grabbed his remains, and then I got grabbed up by 3 demons who brought me to Anor Londo. This was actually pretty surprising, I'm not gonna lie, because I played DS3 already, where there is a Anor Londo, and this is just almost the exact copy of it. And I think if you've played DS1 Anor Londo and then you find out Anor Londo is in DS3, I think that is a bigger surprise than the other way around. I think that's way cooler, but still cool nonetheless though. After getting there, I went ahead and defeated some knights there, and I found a 3rd golden gate. Yeah, a 3rd one. I don't know how. At this point I had no clue how to use them, when to use them, but at least I found them, right? Like, if they were gonna be used in the future, I knew exactly where all of them were. The areas in between the big boss of Anor Londo and the beginning of Anor Londo was pretty decent. It was fun. I think this, in my opinion, is one of the most beautifully designed areas of the game. But we're just gonna skip everything in between and let's just go into the actual boss of Anor Londo, which is the hardest boss in DS1, except for maybe Artorias, which is a DLC boss. But Ornstein and Smoke, these two were the only boss in the game that I've actually had to face and died for more than an hour. These guys were so unpredictable, it's crazy. First, let's talk about Ornstein. Ornstein has a very weird attack pattern. 1, you do not know, at least I couldn't figure it out, how many attacks he was going to do in a row. That was one particular thing I did not like about him. But I figured out if you can bait his charge attack, you can dodge through it and then hit him. That was my tactic. But then, let's talk about the charge attack. This guy, I don't know what kind of code the developers put into him, but he could charge with a wind up, he could charge standing, he could make weird turns. It was unbelievable how many times I died to just him spawning out of nowhere. It was crazy. And then again, even if he charged and I dodged through him, who would show up? Big ass smoke just running in with his charging attack and just sweeping me off the floor, man. Like, the combo of them is super annoying. And eventually I got the second phase, which I killed Ornstein first, which was basically the tactic I used. I baited out his charge attack and then defeated him. And then I had to defeat Smoke, which Smoke doesn't really change that much in the second phase. But yeah, overall, I think it took me like 5-6 more tries before I beat the entirety. After getting to the second phase for the first time, so that was pretty decent. But yeah, this boss was hard. In particular, I don't like team fights or dual boss fights in general, but this boss fight was hard and actually pretty fun. I was very relieved when I got it because it took me a very long time compared to the other bosses, but in the end I did get them. So after defeating them, you are met with the biggest chest of rewards in the entire game. The biggest chest ever. And you also get, when you talk to them, I mean her. When you talk to her, you get the Lord Vessel. And the Lord Vessel is a godsend item. The Lord Vessel allowed me to now finally teleport between some bonfires. Not all of them, but some. And this was great because now the catacomb grind was not for nothing. I could actually go there if I wanted to. Then I went back to spawn again because, you know, when you don't know what to do, just go back to spawn, right? That's mostly how it works. So I went back to spawn and then I found a really weird snake serpent looking thing that brought me down somewhere where I could place the Lord Vessel. And now the golden gates or golden doors, however you want to call them, opened up. And luckily I knew where every single one of them was. So what did I do? Well, first I went to Seath the Scaleless. So the area of Seath the Scaleless was actually pretty cool. The area is basically the mage area of the game. Every Souls game so far I've played has at least one area that is dedicated to mages. And this area is the one of Seath the Scaleless. The boars in the beginning of the area were pretty annoying, and the mages and everything else was fairly decent. And eventually you come across Seath himself, which was pretty early in my opinion. But then again, I thought I had to defeat him right there and then, but that wasn't supposed to happen. I thought he was like invincible because I was just getting hit with gems over and over again and I couldn't do anything. And then eventually I died. And I got placed in a cell. So I thought to myself, okay, this was a predestined death. I just had to die in order to progress the story. So when you kill the guard outside of your cell, you get the key to open the door and then go back down to get another key to open the door that is up top. Yeah, it's pretty pretty difficult, but yeah. That's at least what the area looked like and how you had to progress it. And then when you go through that door up top, you get into a bit of a maze, you could call it. Or you have to, like, it's a little puzzle with moving stairwells or stairways. And it actually took me quite a bit of time to figure this area out. But I did like it. It was a bit of a brain tester. I liked it very much. And when you go through this area, eventually, which took me like an hour, you get to a crystal cave, as you can call it. And in this area, you have basically a ton of the butterflies that I already defeated once. But you have them like there, clinged to some of the crystals. They don't attack you, which is pretty funny. And then when you go through this entire crystal cave, you eventually come across Seath again. But this time, you can actually hit him. But when you hit him, he takes 0 damage. So I died like 2 times to him, and I was like, okay, this cannot be possible. It has to be a gimmick fight. I have to do something to make him bleed, right? And then I remembered the cutscene where they showed a particular branch or something of the sorts. So I decided to cut it down. And then I actually did do damage to him, and I defeated him first try. So yeah, it's just a gimmick fight. Pretty decent gimmick. It was also pretty clear that that was what you had to do. So I died like a couple of times for no reason at all. But yeah, eventually I defeated him, and then I went on to the second Golden Gate. And I went to Nito, the Grave Lord Nito, which was in the area behind the catacombs and behind the Tomb of the Giants. Luckily, I could teleport pretty close, and I defeated Grave Lord Nito first try. Okay, maybe not first try, but I'll explain it quickly. What I did was I went to Nito first before Seath, right? I tried it like 2 times. I had no clue what to do with him. So I went to Seath just because I'm a pussy. Like, that's basically what happened. Then I went back to Nito and I beat him first try. It was just one attack you had to dodge multiple times, where he gushes out like death. But if you just run away, you hit him like 3 times, run away, and do that over and over again, you can defeat him pretty easily. Yeah, that's basically what I did. And then it was time to move on to the third Golden Gate, which was not immediately a boss, right? I had to defeat a couple of other bosses before that. So the first one you meet is the Demon Fire Sage. The Demon Fire Sage is a kind of a copy of the Asylum Demon in terms of his attacks. I think the only thing that's different is that instead of swinging, he now has an attack that does an area of effect, which I got hit by a couple of times. I did beat him first try, but that area was pretty big. And after him, I immediately defeated the Centipede Demon, also first try. I had no clue what that guy was doing. He was just jumping in the air. Didn't do any damage. And after that, I met again with Solaire, and I had to walk on lava. And this part took me so long to get, it was actually crazy. When I got to this part, I couldn't walk on the lava. So I thought to myself, okay, this has to be something where I have to have a ring, right? I have to have a ring or something that allows me to walk on lava. I looked through it, and I kid you not, I looked over it like 3 times. I couldn't find it. I went back, tried some other things, walked around for like 3 hours. And then eventually I came across Havel. Havel is in a totally different area of the game. But I eventually came across Havel. I defeated him and he gave me some armor, which I wanted to equip. So I went into my equipment once more. And then I found also that I had the ring all along by defeating the Centipede Demon. This took way longer than needed, but yeah, it just happened. Shit happens, I guess. And yeah, now I could walk on the lava and go further. So going through that area, after the centipede demon, you walk around like T-Rexes. I feel like there are like T-Rexes of some sorts. And also some alien type looking things. And then eventually you come across the Bed of Chaos, which is the third and what I thought to be the final lord you had to defeat in order to open up the gate where you placed the Lord Vessel. What I found most interesting about the Bed of Chaos is that he had save points. Like, the whole fight is a gimmick fight. You have to defeat the right side. You have to slice the right side of him, the left side of him, and then you can go into the middle. But when you slice the right side, it doesn't regenerate when you go back into it for a second time. So if you slice it, it's done. So you can die 3 more times, and the right side will always be sliced. The same with if you slice the left side. I kind of like that. But it also makes the fight pretty easy. Right? Like, just get it done, and then you have a checkpoint. I've never seen that in any of the Souls games, which is a unique thing. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about it entirely, but it was a pretty decent boss, I guess. Yeah. Not my favorite, but not the worst either. So after killing him, I got the third Lord Soul, and I offered all 3 of them up to the Lord Vessel. I thought that was enough. But then, I was live streaming, by the way, this entire thing. I'll probably live stream my Dark Souls 2 as well. But somebody in my chat told me that there was a 4th Lord that I had to get. And in order to get to this Lord, I had to go to New Enerlondo. And New Enerlondo is an area beneath Firelink Shrine. And I had already been there, and then I stopped going there. I don't know why, but I had already seen the area, so I knew when they said New Enerlondo where to go. This area had some ghosts which I could not hit. There is probably some way with using light sources to dispel the ghosts. I don't know. But I just ran straight past them all. And then eventually I got a key from an NPC that was in the area, which allowed me to drain the water. And which was a cool part, by the way, because draining the water, you open the gates to the Valley of Drakes, which was pretty cool. That was a cool interconnection between the areas. At this point, I needed help from chat. I had no clue what to do. And they told me I needed to defeat Sif. And Sif is the greatest companion of Artorias. Artorias is, like, mentioned multiple times throughout the story. So I had high expectations for him as well. And then I heard he was a DLC boss. Defeated him though, but yeah. I had high expectations of him, and he did not disappoint, let me tell you that. So, I had to defeat Sif. In order to go to Sif, I had to go through the Darkroot Garden, go up a stair that was hid behind a waterfall, and then when I went into Sif's area, I killed him first try. But it was sad, man, because Sif is actually a great companion. This man, I have no clue how long, but waited, I believe, years for Artorias to return. He guarded his grave with his life. And the reason why I needed to defeat Sif was because Sif gave me Artorias' ring. Or at least a ring that lets you traverse the abyss. And that lets me go down that stairwell and go into the abyss, where the 4th Lord was located. So I went back and I dropped into the abyss, and then you fight the 4 kings. This fight was interesting, to say the least. You fight 4 basically the same boss divided. I had no clue. Like, why 4 kings, but then every king has the same moveset? Bit boring. But yeah, I guess overall, decent boss. Not that hard. Not easy either. Overall, I think the game was very easy compared to other games because of the weapon as well. The Black Knight sword, guys. If you ever have a playthrough and you're having a hard time, just equip it, you win. It's crazy how good that weapon is. But yeah, I had to probably like 5 tries and then I got it. So now I had the entire recipe to succeed, right? I had all the 4 Lord Souls and I offered up the Lord Soul to the Lord Vessel. And that opened the gate. But before going through the gate, I still wanted to do a particular thing. I wanted to defeat every single boss in the game. Right? That's what I like doing, is defeating every single boss. It's the same with the DLC of Elden Ring, for example. Imagine not fighting Baal the Dread in the DLC. Like, I can't imagine not fighting him. He was a sick boss. So I don't want to miss anything. So what I did was I went through the entire DLC. I defeated every single boss there. Artorias, by the way, my favorite boss in the entirety of DS1, if we include the DLC, by far. He was very fun. I had the most fun with him, by far, out of all the bosses. And I also went and killed Guinevere. I went into a painting where I fought another boss and just basically did a couple of side quests before actually finishing the game. And after doing all of that, I went into the first Kiln of Flame, I believe the area is called. Pretty dope area, with a cool Colosseum. And going into that area, I already knew the final boss had to be in the Colosseum, right? It just makes sense. And this area was packed, and I mean packed, with Black Knights. But I learned how to parry those attacks, man. I killed them super easily. The parrying in this game is so satisfying. It's crazy. It is so satisfying. I loved it. And defeating a couple of Black Knights, the area is not that big, to be honest. I fought Gwyn. The Cinder Lord Gwyn. And I do have to admit that Gwyn is a pretty decent boss. A pretty good boss, I would say. But I made him easier than he should have been. I had 13 flasks at this point, which was quite a ton. I'm not gonna lie to you. And that made the fight easy. I just hit him twice, and then he hit me to like half HP. I healed, and then I just healed my way through the fight, basically. I could have made it a bit more difficult for myself, but yeah, it is what it is. He was definitely, I think, top 3 bosses in the game, aside from Artorias and Ornstein Smoke. But yeah, I really liked him, except for the fact that I made him too easy with my build and with the flasks I used. And then I linked the fire, and that's DS1, man. That is DS1, the entirety of DS1, including the DLC. So I am planning to do this exact thing with DS2 as well. So if you want to stick around for me playing through the entirety of DS2 and also all the DLCs, then consider liking and subscribing. And hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video or the next live stream. Peace.